Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Pastor's Corner. As you may have noticed, we have gone to 9 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. I looked to just see what works best for people, and last week was our first week at 9 a.m. and it seemed to help on the more people coming aboard, which makes sense. So we thank all of you for your support, being with us, subscribing, liking, all those good things. We're going to go to the Book of Acts, and we're gonna stick on the part about hearing the Lord, but we're gonna go from a different place to Acts chapter 2, verse 17, and it says, "It shall come to pass in the last days." I don't think anyone will argue that we are in the last days. I think everybody agrees on anyone that follows the word. I think that's one area that I don't think people would argue about is we're in the last days. Saith God, I will pour out my spirit, and this is quoting the book of Joel there, and that right there is a familiar or portion of Scripture, chapter 2, verse 17. I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. I don't want to get into that part, but if you can just take note of that, upon all flesh. This is the part I want us to look into. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. So, as we've talked in the past about hearing the voice of the Lord, and then it says in the last days that he will pour out his spirit upon all flesh. All flesh. That means all people. And the sons and the daughters are going to prophesy. And young men shall see visions, old men shall dream dreams. And what that is the Lord speaking to us, either in visions or in dreams. And I always say this, not everything we dream is of the Lord. That should be a given. We should know that. Understanding what might be the Lord speaking to us in a dream, or speaking to us in our hearts, or something we are thinking, or something that just comes from out of the blue. Because in dreaming, we're also purging. When we dream, we purge, we let things go. There's a lot of things that can happen in dreams, but when the Lord speaks to us in a dream, I said this last week in our live service, a lot of reasons why the Lord speaks to us in dreams is because that's where he can catch us, where he can get us. Because if we don't allow the Lord to speak to us in a way that we surrender and give a space of time, the Lord's not going to speak to us while we're on our phone, doing all kinds of things like at the same time. Now, he can speak to us in between different times in the day, yes. But what I mean is we're so preoccupied in our minds and with our hands maybe, that the only time he might be able to catch us is in our sleep. But when we're praying and we stop things in our life, and it seems like a given, but in today's day and time, I know it's not, that just taking your phone and shutting it off, putting it somewhere distant, just silencing things and spending some time with the Lord can be challenging for people. The way we communicate so rapidly with individuals and people in our lives quickly, uh, it doesn't have to just be phone calls, it'd be texting, emailing, whatever way of communicating. That what happens is that people are used to having us right there to communicate with us and expecting us to just be right there and not allowing us to give that time to the Lord. What do I mean by that? That if you don't answer their phone call or their text quickly, people can get a little bit disturbed or maybe even offended. I try and relay to people. I have to have my space of course, my sleep, and then my devotionals. And of course, some people won't understand that. I have to do it. I can't have my phone on in my sleep. It messed me up. I couldn't do it. I have to have things silent because what would happen is I'd be hearing the notifications, the alerts. My mind would start going, and it's something I need to check. So I have to just turn it off. And even when I do wake up, I have to go through my process of starting my day before I look at text messages or whatever it might be. Lest my mind starts going and I'm distracted. I have to have that space of time uh, every day, regardless of what, if it's a holiday, it's a Monday, whatever it is, a fasting day or a non-fasting day, whatever. I need to go through my steps for myself, but also that I allow the Lord to speak to me. And then that if I do get something in a dream and I don't jump on things right away. I put them in my pocket. I call it putting in my pocket. Look it over. And I thank God for my wife because she hears the Lord. But a lot of times I won't tell her what I'm getting, what I might receive. And because I like to see what she also may have received. I don't share my messages that I'm going to speak here in Pastor's Corner or my live with my wife. I don't talk about them before I preach or teach. I don't discuss them. But numerous times she'll know what my message is going to be. Not because she looked at something or we were at the same place, same time and got something. It's she'll hear the Lord. And the Lord will give her insight, heads up on where I'm going with something because it's not me. Some of you might remember this is 4 years ago. We were praying about the purchase of this property. And I know I've shared this if you've been with us. And the Lord spoke to me about shoes. He spoke to me about shoes. And I didn't say anything. I didn't tell my wife or anything. And then I started preaching, and I was going down. Before I even said anything, she spoke out shoes. The Lord had already spoke to her too. And what does that do? Then it confirms to her and to me God's showing us the same thing. One of the young men in the church, and I know this may seem like a contradiction of this scripture, but he had a dream, and he told me on Sunday after service, he goes, I had a dream that you didn't have your left shoe on, and we were in the process of of making a change. And he goes, I'm not sure what that means. Well, I said, well, the left means it's the weak side. It's the weakness. And uh, the shoe represents the ugliness of ourselves. So the ugly weaknesses, and he shared it to me, and I viewed it as me leaving my weak, ugly side, leaving it, and that's why it's not there, walking away from it. And again, this is what I got 4 years ago. I'm just sharing this as an example of the Lord speaking to us in a dream, that I'm asking for the Lord for direction and resources, and what we're going to do, and what we think of in on this earth is gold, silver, what we call money, however the money is or how it's in our bank and move. There's so many ways that money's moved now. It's not where you just have a pile of cash. Some people still do that, but that's rare. And we think that that's the highest point of giving, is giving money. We put money way up here in our giving. But people won't see this. But what's harder than giving money is giving our ugliness. That's harder to do. And we think, in the old school, we'd scratch a check. Some people still do that. I still do checks, not a lot, but I still write checks. It's just something I've done, and I still do. But a lot of stuff's done through different platforms on devices. But we view that as giving. It is giving, but we put it really high. But when the Lord's asking for our ugliness, our attitudes, our the hang-ups we might have, our difficulty in accepting, embracing other people, all those things like that, that when the Lord's saying, give that up, give it that up, which it said, well, I gave X amount of dollars. Be thankful, Lord. And that's how people may think in their mind, instead of giving the Lord our ugliness. And say, why would the Lord want that? Because we don't want to let it go. We don't want to let our ugliness go, our attitudes, our what we might be jaded with, or whatever that might be. And how do we do that? We have to look inside of ourselves. And this is what the Lord had spoke to me in a dream 4 years ago. Just giving an example of the Lord speaking. But I'm always wanting my ear to be in tune on any given day to hear the Lord, if it be in a dream, if it just Him speaking into my heart. The vision part is not a common thing, and again, that's something that it takes a sensitivity. It takes a solid foundation for the Lord to show an open vision to somebody. And what if you don't know what that means? It's like you're not dreaming, you're not asleep, you're awake, but you see something in the spiritual realm. And I can hear people say, then I know they will, that doesn't happen. And people do that. They'll say that doesn't happen. Well, what they're saying, if they really word it correctly, they should word it as, I don't have that happen. That doesn't happen to me. That's what they should say. But if it did happen to them, they would have a different opinion of it, or to their son or their daughter, as the Bible said. They would view it differently. But because it doesn't happen to them and it happens to somebody else, they throw it out and not understand. But it takes somebody that's not going to go way to the extreme to be able to have the vision, to have an open vision, and even dream dreams and hear the Lord. Be able to just stop, be calm, be still, allow the Lord to speak. And I get that with myself. I understand it's like, okay, I'm always doing things. I'm always being productive. It's just what I do. It doesn't just have to be this right here. This is one thing of a whole lot that I'm constantly doing things. It's the way I'm wired. But I understand that I have to pull back, stop, be still, and hear the Lord. But I understand uh, that I like to have things that, like, I'll have these like a ball that I'll play with. I know I've shared this, or one of those rubber band things that you put on your wrist. I'll have one of those, and I just pull back and forth like this. It's just something I've always done ever since I can remember. Um, Bounce a ball when I was young. I'd go outside and just throw it against the wall, catch it and catch it and catch it and catch it, throw it up in the air and catch it. But I always have something like that to play with in my hands. I know some people think that that's OCD something or something, but it's just when I think, when I'm doing something where I have that time, I just like to have something like that. And that's what I do, and I understand how I'm wired like that. It's how I'm wired. But I understand that I have to put it in park, and allow the Lord to speak to me. My dad, he used to be able to go in the garage like 6 in the morning. And he'd have a chair, a fan, and whatever he might be drawing or painting or making something or reading something, and he could go in the garage, and then 10 o'clock at night still be there. Of course, he go to the bathroom in between, but he always had that where he could be somewhere for hours and hours like that. Now, that's not how I'm wired. Now, I could be in the garage, but I'm gonna be like organizing the tools, and I'm gonna be moving something around and looking at, okay, what's this here, and if I'm doing that, and then I'm gonna be thinking, okay, we need to put a shelf here to put this, and uh, I remember organizing, spending all kinds of time on my garage, just setting everything up. That's just what I do, the backyard, whatever it is. But I'm constantly doing things like that. Now, sitting down and eating with the family, enjoying family time, to me, that's being productive. I see it as being productive. But I'm not just going to sit on the couch and just watch TV all day or watch movies all day. To me, I I don't want to do that, and I guess I can almost say I can't do that because it's just not the way I'm wired. Um, so, it, as long as my body allows me, I'm gonna always be productive, doing things. But I understand I have to pull back and give the Lord time to speak to me. I'm sharing my perspective of how I go down this road to help you with yours. Now I know chances are you're not wired like me, and that's doesn't matter. But to you, to know how you're wired, to know, okay, Lord, speak to me, speak to me, Lord. But I have to give you this other side also as I say this. When the Lord speaks to you, of course, it's going to align with His word. It's not going to contradict His word right here. Whatever the Lord gives you, it's gonna align with the Bible. Uh, but in order for it to align with the Bible, you have to understand that maybe an interpretation or opinion that we might have of this is incorrect. Yes, we may interpret the Bible incorrectly. Yes, we can. And then we hear something from the Lord and it doesn't align with our interpretation of the word. But that's where we have to be flexible to look and say, wait a second. Oh, it does align with the word. I was misinterpreting something. And that's a hard, tough one for people because so many people, they're like, if you remember in art class, and they give you clay and you make some type of vessel and they put it in the kiln and they fire it and they harden it. Once it's hardened, you can't shape it any longer. And that's how so many people are with their interpretation of the word. It has been hardened many decades ago, and there's no changing, not changing the word, changing their opinion that it may be incorrect. Yes, it may be incorrect. And no way, no how that a lot of people would be open to the Lord correcting a false interpretation, an incorrect interpretation. So they can't hear the Lord because what their opinion is, there's no changing it. Okay, this is the deep part. The shallow part is politics. Politics are the shallow part. But people have opinions in politics. There's no changing them. There's no changing them. And not understanding that it's incorrect and not even open to being corrected. I'm going to give you another one I've shared, and if you remember me sharing this, just go with me again. But there was a president that was in office here in the United States, and I thought that this president was on the right track in my mind, in my opinion. This was a long time ago. This isn't in our current what's going on now, so don't put those names in here because it's not. This is a long time ago. And I had this thought and this opinion of this president. And then I remember I had a dream. And this president, he was in office at the time. He was driving one of those old school station wagons in my dream. This old school station wagon. And the station wagon was filthy. It was just filthy, dirty, just kept not taken care of. And I woke up and I got the message. The Lord was telling me, this man, if I could say it this way, is dirty. He's dirty. He's not righteous. He's not, I'm using the word righteous, but he's aligned in the wrong ways. And I'm like, I hear you, Lord. I got it. And you may say, why would the Lord share that with me? You know why? Because I was open to it. I was open to being told by the Lord, this man isn't right. He's not right. And I'm like, okay, I hear you, Lord. But I'm open to allowing the Lord to show me that. And that goes for all the politicians on whatever side, red, blue, in the middle. I'm just going to tell you right now, they follow what people are registered Republican or Democrat. I'll tell you what I'm registered. I'm going to tell you. I'm registered independent. Yes, some people say I'm wrong, but I'm registered independent. Why am I registered independent? You know why? Because I'm open to being, okay, Lord, where are we at with this? Because I don't want my opinion made prematurely, and I don't want somebody else to indoctrinate me. I want to have direction. I already know that there's a lot of pastors right now, if they heard me say this, they would be what they call rebuking me. They'd be rebuking me right now. But I'm going to say this. Would you trust this man or whatever, this woman, whatever it might be, on whatever level? You have to be open. That's me. I'm talking shallow now. This is shallow. This ain't even deep. And this is deep right here. The word is deep. But what I mean is the political stuff, that's surface stuff. But how people will make their opinion, and their opinion may be wrong. It may be wrong. It may be right, but it may be wrong. But and I say this, if a person was in front of me and we were discussing some topic, and I looked at that person, I said, okay, is there anything that can come out of my mouth that I could say that would change your mind or your opinion? And they would say, no, there's nothing. My opinion is 100% correct. I'm not arguing with that person because they're not open to hearing it. But how many people do you know that in their minds they're 100% correct? How many people do you know that they believe they're 100% correct? That's crazy to think that our physical minds can be 100% correct on our opinions and not be open to being wrong. And this is, I'll go even further with it. That some people, not only do they believe that their opinions are 100% correct, they believe the problem with everyone else is they don't think like they do. That's crazy. That's crazy to think that our opinions are 100% correct. There's no area in our lives that need to be corrected by anything, anybody, and that would include the Lord. We can't be corrected. The only thing that needs to happen is everybody needs to think the way this person thinks they think. No way. The beauty is that we all don't see things the same. That's beautiful. And open to hearing. And then coming and aligning with His Word. And hearing the Word of the Lord. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've had a blessed week. Hope you're having a blessed day. We'll be back here in person at 12 o'clock noon Arizona time, 1363 South Vineyard in Mesa, Arizona, 85210. If you'd like to bless us financially, there's some ways there on the screen, I believe, should be up there. We thank you for your support. We thank you for being with us, and have a blessed, beautiful Sunday.